much. The program is still this morning on ITV on independent television, and I did tell you that just this morning we are going to commence our discussion segment with still in the mood of celebrating the Nigerian workforce, the workers in Nigeria. And you understand that yesterday, May 1st, was actually May Day, and a whole lot of issues came to the fore. The arguments of what should be or what would be the minimum wage also came up. And of course, if you had gone through some of the major newspapers this morning, you would have read one or two things that has to do with 66,000 naira, 66,500 naira as the proposed minimum wage, and also 56,500 naira and also the proposed minimum wage. But the thing about it is that just yesterday we read in the papers whereby workers actually had to caution the federal government under the aegis of NLC, that's Nigeria Labour Congress, had to caution the federal government against the deadline of August. Well, to discuss all this today on our program this morning on ITV, we are very, very privileged to have our seasoned labor leaders, labor unionists, and of course people that can really talk when it comes to labor issues. We're so privileged to have Reverend Olu Aderibigbe. He's a labor leader in the state. So you're welcome to this program.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
And also we are privileged to have Mr. Augustine Eboigbe. He is a public affairs analyst, a policy expert, and somehow, you know, he has this soft spot for labor issues in the country. You're welcome to this program this morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
And also, viewers out there, we're also expecting Money Mike Modesty. He's the acting secretary of the NUT, that's the Nigeria Union of Teachers here in the state. So when he comes up, we're going to have him so that he can also bear his mind on some of the issues that we're going to be looking at here this morning. Gentlemen, you're welcome one more time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, gentlemen, just before we begin to talk about the deadline, you know, as I talked about yesterday by the NLC, can we just, you know, chronicle the contributions of the NLC and also the workforce towards national development in the country? Let me start with Reverend, sir.
Well, we want to thank God that we are still living under this hard pressure, actually as it affects Nigerian workers. The government has not been fair to Nigerian workers under this depressed economy, because both of us, both the government or the employers, will buy in the same market. There's no commodities for poor man or rich woman. So we all go to the same market to buy. But when a man that is at the top can buy as many because he has the money, but the workers with the little stipend that is receiving will also begin to cry to the same market. So the policy system in this country has been oppressing workers since independence. And that is why we have to look at it, because every time some states want to say about inability to pay and they will decide their wages on their own, there is indirect way of trying to cheat the workers or oppress the working people of the country the more. So the general issues is that the minimum wage is right now to be given to workers as at when due, and the nation is dwindling because we produce the wage, because the bakers of the cake are not given privilege to partake from it. Rather, the people just need to squander the cake, share it anyhow, and then leave problems and tears on the ground for the people.
Okay. Now, I know that once you give a labor unionist opportunity to say something about minimum wage, you know, they will always just say it. But what we are really trying to look at first is to look at the contributions of the labor force, the NLC, towards national development. You know, right from independence, shortly after independence, of course, we had the NLC. The TUC also followed and all that. So what has been the major landslide?
Let's go straight to the independence era.
Okay.
We talk about Awolowo, we talk about Zik, you talk about late Pa Imodu. Those are the people that really fought for the independence. But today, when you are talking about the story of Nigerian independence, or those who are the forefront those who fought for Nigerian independence, they always minus the Modu's name. But they forgot that the Modu was part of the system, not even used. The first man that demonstrated in the way against this type of colonial oppression. And then from there, the Enaro and Co. join up, and I will want to be able to let us fight for the independence of this country. So workers have play immense role in the development of this country. They have played immense role in building the country economy.
Okay. All right, Mr. Eboigbe, we have so much, perhaps plethora issues, between the Nigeria Labour Congress and, of course, the government. We have issues that borders on salaries not being paid as at when due, payments of untimely payments of pensions and gratuity, and so many issues that borders on inability of government to really increase salary. At times, workers are being promoted, but without no commensurate increase of salaries. Now, the federal government has, kind of recently we saw a presidential committee as headed by Ama Pepple that was set to look at this minimum wage. Now, looking at all these plethora problems, do you think that the minimum wage is realizable?
Yes, thank you very much. The minimum wage is realizable, yes. Yeah. But again, it's not just about the minimum wage, because there are too many issues that we need to consider when you begin to look at the increase in the minimum wage. Before now, we've had increase in minimum wages, just like when you mentioned about finding it difficult to pay salaries. And that's why I want to give kudos to this present dispensation. You will discover, as observed, that when this administration came on board, one of the challenges they had was that the previous administration scandalously were not able to pay salaries, both at the federal and state level. We're sure by going beyond not even able to pay salaries were not coming as I went due. And then that also amounts to wage theft. In society, the civil service is the engine room of every society and contributes maximally to national development. So it's whereby you do not give the people who supposedly are the engine room of the society, who move the society forward economically and all of that, decent wages to be able to live, to be able to have a decent life, live properly, and be able to contribute, be productive as far as work is concerned. You do not expect, you won't expect much from them. But having said that, there are too many angles to this issue of minimum wage. Historically, looking at 2010, when the previous administration came on board under former President Goodluck Jonathan, we saw a political angle to all of it. The minimum wage before that time was 5,500, and then he increased it up to 18,000 naira. And we discovered that immediately government, as at that time, increased minimum wage to 80,000 naira. It became so difficult for them to pay. And I saw issues with subsidy and all that came on board, trying to remove subsidy and all those things. So if you're asking that we should, yes, 80,000 today, can it do anything for any Nigerian worker? Obviously, I'll tell you no. If you divide 80,000 by 30 days, that's about 600 naira per day. What would that do for you as a Nigerian worker? Considering the issue of housing,
the economic
considering transportation and all of that. Just like I said, when you don't pay workers properly, you do not expect productivity from them maximally. But with the present situation on ground, hope again that we are not going to have, we're not seeing an increase in minimum wage because we are entering into an electionary year. We must, as a country, be genuine enough. Does Nigeria as a country have what it takes to pay Nigerian workers 66,500? Yes,
they have.
Yes, we have it. We have it when we begin to block loopholes, begin to reduce waste in government. I think that as a young person, I think that the money that we attach to political offices, whether elective or appointment, is just unreasonable compared to what workers receive. Even lecturers, for instance, that I just get opportuned by political compensation and consideration to hold a particular position, and then there's so much money attached to it, and then the man who takes the pain to teach you gets nothing at the end of the day to take home, and then you expect such a man to be productive, and then the working condition is even worse. The working environment is even worse. So I just hope sincerely that there are no political undertone to the issue of increment, that it should be genuine as far as the government is concerned. Okay. But I won't say that economically, you also want to look at it. In a situation as of today, when state governments find it difficult to actually pay salaries.
We should find out why the state government find it difficult to pay.
When it is 18,000, so when it becomes 66,500.
66,000 or 56,000.
Whichever one the tripartite committee agrees on. To what end are we sure that the federation unit will be able? Because it's not just enough to say let's increase the minimum wage. You must be able to pay workers and ensure that they work effectively. Okay.
Now let's come to Edo State. Yesterday was May Day, and of course we saw our own governor at the Involved sports complex in Uniben, attending to
and NSC gives back to the decision to later negotiate on behalf of the workers. So with this, the NSC and the TUC, they are prepared to make sure this time around we are not going to miss the target. And that I want to create one impression first before we digress. The ability to pay, or the whatever, all states can pay this money, either 65,000 or 66,000 or whatever. They can pay this money.
So what do you think
like the comrade has said, if you can reduce, you can block the leaking holes, they can conveniently pay this money. Before the last regime, if you can see what happened, even with the 18,000 that many states complain they cannot pay, is that the same regime that somebody have about 500 million inside toilet? In the same regime that a permanent secretary has 66 cars, you see a car dealer. In the same regime, somebody who have a house that they pack dollars into it, they can even account how much. The same regime has houses. A woman that's not even in government has houses in every location. If you can block corruption, and a governor traveling to Lagos has more than 10 cars, and we all sleep in the hotel, what stop a governor of now if his own private company will he have go with 15 cars? So let us remove the impression that ability to pay, like a River State governor was blasting workers, why should they not go on strike for security of the nation? You don't want to cause diversion. So what I'm saying that the TUC and NSC, they are prepared to make sure that this government should pay this money, and that is the ultimatum given that between now and August they should do it. Because if we don't give the ultimatum, government will not, employers will not move.
Okay. Now, Mr. Eboigbe, let's go over to come over to Edo State one more time. You heard the governor, right there in that report, whereby he promised that he's going to make sure that this administration is going to make sure that at least a worker goes through a training to enhance capacity. How is the NLC going to be prepared for this? Because the accusation has always been that, the allegation rather, has always been that most times workers are really not making themselves available for training.
Yes, again, that's one of the problems that we will lack in this country is leadership. The governor and the government of Edo State today, they are ready for leadership. We were seeing a restructured civil service. We've seen a restructured public and civil service organization. We've seen the civil service that is prompt to work and duty. We've seen a lot of policies coming on board. For example, the issues with C of owns. It doesn't take time anymore. You go to ministries now, you see workers attending to you. For example, issues of teachers, the best digital, all of those trainings. So I think that the Nigerian workers are prepared for whatever policy, infrastructural transformation you want to introduce to the system. Again, that's global trend. Today, the world has gone digital. It's painful that today, a lot of the things we do in public and civil service are still, by the way, analog. It's not a big deal. It's not supposed to be anything that's bogus, that's ambiguous. It's something that's completely simple. Today, we're in a globalized age. So training and retraining of workers, it's something that should always come aboard every now and then, so that they can be completely and totally updated. But having said that, one of the issues that worry me so much is the issue of the private sector in all of this. The issue of compliance. 7 years after 80,000 minimum wage, we still find it difficult as entrepreneurs, as small business owners, to comply with 80,000 because of the present rate and state of the economy of the country. Inflation is at double digits. Yes, the NBS, the CBN has proposed that very soon, like we've seen again, that in 1 year, between April last year and now, inflation has dropped from 17% to about 13.34%. So we hope that not until we are in an economy that has a single-digit inflation rate, it will actually be difficult for us to achieve these things, because it's not just enough for you to increase my salary. It is whether this increment will reflect in my day-to-day living. So the issues are much. So you don't just say 66,500, and then you don't also consider the private sector. How ready are they? Nigeria today, one of the solutions we need is mass industrialization. But again, you can't get that with a lot of this insecurity around us. So we must begin to tackle these issues. Otherwise, you see a situation whereby by the third quarter, government says, okay, we've agreed, this is the report from the tripartite committee, NSC, everybody comes together, okay, this is it. The National Assembly says, okay, fine, what they call it again, the minimum wage bill, scales through a lot of that, and then you're having issues with paying salaries, and then you begin to see massive retrenchments, downsides of the workforce. You begin to see strikes, which obviously probably even lead to anarchy. So we must look at all of these angles. There's also the issue of public theft. My father just mentioned now how in previous administration you saw people accumulating, embezzling, and looting our common patrimony. The question today is, are people still not looting our common patrimony? So where are all this money going to come from? What about the issues with oil? We just watched the program now looking at the post-oil era. What happens with the oil today? I mean, with the level of industrialization and technical advancement in the whole world, very soon we won't be dependent on oil. So the rate at which we've diversified today in this country, will it be able to sustain the core for this new minimum wage?
Beautiful question. Now, Reverend Oluwaderigbe, let me come to you. Now, NSC has given August as the deadline for the actualization of the proposed new minimum wage. So what happens if after August this proposal is achieved?
It gives room for more negotiation. It gives room for employers to be more proactive. Because when you plan ahead, not a signal has been given. It's you who are the author, or who want to interpret the signal should know. If you really, that's part of what we call management. You must be able to manage the 3M. The money, the men, and the material. Now that somebody said, or the group said, between now and August, because they have been deceived several times. So once beaten, twice shy. It is better with this is where we are going, and this is the bus stop. When you know the bus stop, all of us, the team players, have to stop to make sure. But peradventure, you cannot meet August deadline. Negotiation continues.
So we're not going to see more strikes?
I am not saying that.
Yeah.
It depends. It takes two to tango. It depends the way you handle me. If you let me know that you are concerned, not deceiving me, I don't need. There are times we judge, or there are times we war. Both of it goes together. Because sometimes you cannot be war all the time. You become hostile. Nobody will get to you. But if the government or the employers of labor think ahead and plan ahead this matter, they have vision that by August something want to happen. If you really love the country, and you don't want any fire to engulf the country, you now walk ahead. Yes, I think the ultimatum for August is just a warning.
Okay. Now, let me still come to you. This cry for increments in salaries and wages is almost a phenomenon that we are looking at now. Now, what do you think is the problem? Are we looking at a poor working environment at all? Is the NSA looking at that? Don't you think that the NSA should be more bothered than that rather than increment in salary?
Yeah, thank God. We have a governor, like my comrade said here, a governor that think ahead. Before in the state, you cannot even attend to restroom. But for now, the man has started trying to make reorganization, the structure of secretariats, giving workers idea, a computerized system to make sure we are now in a global age. So that when you make provision, there will be production. So on this, I think we are looking at a neighbor environment, and every digital governor or employers of neighbor will make sure that travel here out of the country, you will ease yourself in airport. In our airport, it's not like that. Apart, is it not management? It depends on who is in charge. And that is why we are now telling those who want to rule in the nation must have workers, the masses at heart, starting from your home. It's not really ending on salary. We are talking about environment, the working condition for Nigerian workers. Is there any, like some of the private companies, which I don't want to call their names, there's canteen, they have clinic. So if any worker there is sick, the doctor will attend to you. There are nurses there. If you want to go on break, you go to their canteen at a little price.
Yeah. What about the economic environment that the Nigerian worker finds here, his or herself?
The problem of this environmental issue, we are still talking about the leadership. It is not caused by the workers. That is why the same workers now want to, not only salary, it's a total package of where I am working, the environment I'm working, how is it conducive for me? How do I get boss to where I work?
Yeah.
So thank God somebody had to start it, which Edo State has tried. At least they release about 60 buses now, including what Adam Oshemole bought. With that, you can be able, students with uniform can go to school with other no payment or stipends. So this is the type of what the Nigerian workers is looking up to. Not a governor that will say we should go on strike because of state security. Such a governor, I think, he must be drunk. You cannot, they are users. They want to use workers and dump them. If you want workers to go and use their head to break coconut, when will they eat it? So we are talking that such a governor should have insight like Obaseki is doing. You wake up and see your rota. You wake up that seminar is organized for Edo State workers. You wake up that new computer is in your place of work. All those are the things the Nigerian worker is talking about. Not only on salary. We are talking about environmental, the system, a conducive way to work to make production. Because if your area is good, there will be more production. And when there is more productivity, there will be more gain, and it will affect everybody.
Okay. Now, Mr. Iboigbe, you earlier talked about the need for workers to also try to look at, let me also still refer to the economic working environment. Now, you discover that most Nigerian workers, they prefer to work outside the shores of this country because for them, such locations are more economically viable than working in Nigeria. So, don't you think the NSA should think more on this environment? Let them engage the government in programs, policies that will improve the economy, rather than trying to make proposals for incremented salaries. Because as some have said that if the salary is increased, the economic situation is bad, it's of no effect.
Yeah, that's what I just said, that at that point, this 6,500 will not have value to your life.
Okay.
Because the economy will even get worse. Again, I will continue to say this is a pre-electionary year. It has a way of also creating some kind of I will not use the word tension.
Are you trying to raise the fears of workers when you say pre-electionary year? Because
see, there's a probability that when you implement it and then money goes into the economy, okay, you also don't preempt what the market forces will look like.
Okay.
Because you now have more money, So there's also the issue of market force. Okay, but having said that, one of the greatest problems we have in this country is the tech sector of the society, civil society, labor unions, and all of that. With all due respect to them, I think that we must begin to ensure that the role for which they are known for, they continue to do it. It goes beyond quantitative of worker salary. It should also involve pressurizing government and those in government to do what is right and the needful. Because again, one of our challenges in the civil service is corruption. Okay. If I increase minimum wage, if we increase minimum wage now to 66,500, does this stop corrupt practices? Because corrupt practices will take money away from government and put in individual pockets. Those we've mentioned before this time, those persons were not even political appointees, they were public servants, permanent secretaries, directors in civil service. And these are finances that would, if combined together, will also have a way of alleviating the sovereignty of the public servants. So the issues are bogus. And the NSC, the labor union, the union bodies should also go beyond asking for increase in salary to also pressurizing government agencies to do the needful and ensure that we position our economy rightly. I just mentioned to you, thanks to Senator Shosani, the amount that the National Assembly gobs alone, if put in proper perspective, we'll solve a problem of 150,000 if minimum wages are that.
Yeah, but that's statutory. I mean, it's statutory. So.
Again, this issue is also not captured in the 2018 budget. Let's not forget. So you also need a supplementary budget to be able to handle all of this. Okay? So, like I said before, we know that this administration is willing. Because if they are not willing to increase the minimum wage, they won't be talking about setting up a committee. Okay. And we know the committee is working. Okay. But we are also praying that there are no political undertone to all of this.
Okay. Money Mike Modesty is the acting secretary of the NUT here in Edo State. He's also here with us on our program this morning on ITV. Mr. Money Mike Modesty, may I say happy worker stay in arrears?
Thank you so much. Good morning, Evans and viewers. Good morning to all of you.
We are looking at the new minimum wage and, of course, deadline by the NFC that's come August this year. If that money is not, if that increment is not realized, that you may just go on strike, if that's true.
Well, I think the NSC was magnanimous enough to have even mentioned August. The workers have always bear the brunt of all the inefficiencies in the system. And like I met my friend talking about blaming the workers and all that, maybe I'm sure he needs to be told more so that he understands better the indices and the variables that are responsible for all the quagmire we have found ourselves economically and otherwise. Be that as it may, organized labor talking about August is just trying to make government know that the patience of the Nigerian worker is becoming very inelastic. And any moment from now, if care is not taken, it may explode within the ambit of the law of the land. As we have it, you are aware there is a law, a subsisting law that says review shall be every 5 years. The last review was in 2011. We are in 2018. In other words, the review has since been overdue. For the workers to have kept quiet, patiently waiting for government to do the needful, and the government has been dilly-dallying neither here nor there, and now they are contemplating it at all for some obvious political reasons and gains that are anticipated, which we are aware of. We are not even unmindful.
Yeah, but you just said that the law states that every 4 or 5 years.
Every 5 years.
Yeah,
every 5 years. Reviewed. And we have been on this for a very long time.
And if you look at that arrangement.
And that is already a breach, a constitutional breach.
Yeah, but it falls within when we have our political transition, our political.
It doesn't follow. It doesn't follow. Let me tell you, Evans, a system that works.
If we have that, how can we now
say a system that works does not even debate or dictate a particular period of salary increases. At the beginning of every year, it trickles in without any announcement. That is how the system works. As inflation is rising, we expect that government should on its own be topping up the pay of the worker. That is how, in a place where you have the system work.
Are you concerned with the economic situation at all?
Economic situation caused by who? By the Nigerian worker?
That's what I said today. It's not
The
Nigerian
economic situation caused by who? Who are the greatest contributors to the economy?
Government.
Labor creates wealth. We are the creator of the wealth. The man working in NPC belongs to labor. Just measure any facet of the economy.
Yeah, the question I'm asking, don't you think that if the organized labor perhaps engage government in policies, programs that will help the economy, that this same organized labor will gain more?
Don't you think organized labor has been doing that? There is hardly any government economic policy that labor has not been involved in. But most of the times when beautiful ideas are on the table and they are put into black and white, implementation becomes a problem. What brings about quarrels here and there? When you hear of ASU on strike, agreements deliberately reached and deliberately broken down by government. Government deliberately goes against the laws of the land that government is supposed to be protecting. Products of collective bargaining, you see government flaunting it flagrantly. Then who are you willing to point the accusing finger out? To the worker? The health sector workers are on strike today. Yes, they are entitled to it.
Yeah, negotiations.
It's ongoing.
Yeah.
What about the negotiations that have taken place donkey years for ASU?
But
That after protracted strikes, fellow Nigerians who are well placed will come and plead with ASU to say, please, let's do it like this. Everybody will agree. They will go and sign an agreement, and government will arrange an agreement. I think the executive rascality we find in this country, which is still subsisting, is a major problem. And the earlier we start addressing this executive rascality, which is contrary to the tenets of the Constitution and the laws of the land, the earlier the better.
Now, Reverend Oluwaderibigbe, we talked about the private sector. I don't know. In Nigeria, do you think the private sector is part of the NLC?
Nigerian workers, the private sector, they are part.
Yeah, because the reason
They
why
are
I'm
part of
asking
the
that
NLC.
question is
Yes.
obvious. At times, Mr. Boybe talked about the last minimum wage, 18,000. As we speak now, most private entrepreneurs, they've not been implementing that. If the private sector is part of the NSC, how come we don't have disciplinary measures, sanctions?
That's why we are talking about the government that is proactive. You cannot break the law of the land. If you work in a bank as a private sector and you declare profit of $1 billion, no bank in this country that have not declared billions as profit. Ask me, why should such a bank will retrench worker or will not pay the minimum wage? It's because people can break the law of the country, because they are connected, which is not the fault of the workers, but the fault of those who are in governance. That they cannot, they close their eyes. Okay, the law says if you don't pay, but the government will always go, or the employer will always go, no work, no pay. They do not talk about if you do not pay, no work. But they will cash on that. The people always cash on their own side of the law. They now want to use workers as napkin. I don't see any private sector that will not pay. Is it Liver Brothers? Is it banks? Is it Guinness? Is it Coca-Cola? Is it 7-Up? They declare profits. So it's part of that. The Nigerian workers should not be used as napkin. And private sector, they can pay. They make more profits. And most of their profit, some of them, they send it abroad to for their parent home, where we suffer here. But if we have good government that can control, okay, when they use BVN, the people not sit right. All companies, even when some state governors want to use political rascality to say we are not paying, they will not obey. Do they not obey? When the law is at work, everybody will sit right.
Morning, Mike Modesty. You are the new entrant into this discussion now. Perhaps you want to lead your voice more.
Yes, as an addendum to what my veteran leader has said, that the law stipulates a minimum of 50 workers. So when you are saying the private sector is not paying, maybe I wouldn't know whether you are making reference to those who have staff strength that is below 50. Now, we are trying to retool that requirement to a minimum of 10 staff. And I can assure you, in the expected readjustment, we are advocating a minimum of 10 staff. when you say minimum wage, what it implies is that this is the least you can pay. Most of the times there are consequential increases. If, for instance, a new wage of 50,000 is approved, what the law says is that any employer that has minimum of 50, and if peradventure amendment is made to the law, a minimum of 10, must not pay anything less than 50,000 to the least paid worker. But not too long ago, from the government perspective, started talking about consequential adjustments. If a 100% increase is given as the new minimum wage, government may tell you that the bottom is heavy, that the top is very heavy, and the bottom is slim. That they don't want to, through process of collective bargaining, request for consequential adjustments in terms of different percentages at different grade levels. But we have passed that stage. Because in the first instance, the 5 years for renegotiation has elapsed. And we are not expecting any government for any instance to come up when an agreement is now being made through this process that is ongoing, where all of them are seated, represented, to come tomorrow to say, no, we are not going to do it this way. I know, like I will tell you, they are working towards 2019. We are not oblivious of that. We are not oblivious of that. What we are saying is a marching order. So since we create the wealth, the time has come for us to be present where the wealth is distributed.
All right, Mr. Ibo, 1 minute now. Just 1 minute.
Yes, you see, that's why, like I told you before, I'm not against the increase of minimum wage. But I just want government, again, to be very sincere. And I also want the Nigerian Labour Congress workers to also be sincere. Yeah. They must look at the issue of economy. You must look at the present inflation rates. You must also look at whether or not. I just told you, September, to be precise, September 2017, Mr. President, while addressing the Governors Forum, ask them, how do you manage to go to bed and sleep when you know that there are workers out there that you've not been able to pay them salary? This present administration, 3 consecutive times, gave out bailouts in trillions. And some of these bailouts were also divided by some of these governors. So what we're saying is that in as much as NSC is demanding for an increase in the minimum wage, which constitutionally it's rightly due them, we're also begging the NSC to, as a pressure group, make demands. For example, the restructuring of Nigeria. That's key. True federalism, that's key. Because it's not enough to say this is the new minimum wage when the federating unit cannot, like I said, because of the so many loopholes, be sincere enough to pay the salaries. I just reminded of 2011 when the last administration, because of the gain it was an electionary year, said 18,000 from 5,500. And then the next thing we saw was that it became a load, and they said let's remove subsidy. And we saw strikes, we saw, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, let's put all hands on deck to ensure that if we are actualizing this minimum wage, it should not affect any sector of the economy, and then Nigeria should go the way.
There is no way to not affect.
Yeah, Reverend, 30 seconds to be
pretending about
I think
there's no way to not affect it.
For now,
yeah,
workers' problem should be paramount in the heart of our leaders, because labor creates wealth, and labor want to look how that wealth is shared, and that the enabling environment should be created for the workers.
Okay. And perhaps just to respond to what Reverend Oluwadebi has just said, it should be known that as Nigerian workers celebrated the Workers' Day yesterday, the federal government pledged commitment to enhance workers' welfare, prosperity for all citizens. And this was made known yesterday by the Minister of Labour, Chris Ondigi. And in a statement signed by the Director of Press in the Ministry, Mr. Samuel Oluwokere, to mark the 2018 Workers' Day. And he said that this occasion should be used to reminiscence on the positive outcomes of labor's struggle for a better working conditions and decent working environment. I think the government perhaps might just be on the road to be sincere in this very attempt. Gentlemen, let's leave it there. Maybe some other time we'll have time to discuss more. Thank you so much, Reverend Olu.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Viewers out there, we'll take a short pause now so that all the segments will come on.